See, you never ever know where you're gonna go. Show your love when you still got them close. Cause tomorrow the audio things come crashing down like dominoes. And it's kind of cold as far as time it goes. But I'm grinding over tomorrow's close. So it's only right we go and live it up. Not even the dark and shake it, stop to shine. In this life we deal with some truths and most of them be lies.
Welcome back to season 2 of TOD Podcast, episode 1. We got a lot to discuss today, you all. We're gonna bring it back. And before we kick off, with this exclusive verbiage, we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna let my panel go ahead and introduce themselves. You know who's talking now. This is Big Lee.
Yo, it's your favorite guy, son. Back at it again.
This is Raul G.
It's your boy Vic Taylor, Victor V. Man, look,
Man of many names.
Oh, you already know.
Right. So it's your favorite panel, TOD Podcast, and we're gonna bring it back to season 2, episode 1. We got a lot to discuss, man. We're gonna run down the list. I'm gonna let one of the guys kick it off as we proceed. Which one of my panel members want to go ahead and kick it off?
Well, I mean, I think that based off what happened closing out last year and bringing it into today, I know one thing we were talking about major was social media, and we were talking about boundaries, right? Overstepping of boundaries, and we were talking about the comparisons on social media. And I think right off back, let's kick that first. Let's start there. We can move our way down the list because it's a long list to go. But social media and its comparisons, man, and I think for both genders is getting out of hand. All right, we are now in a season, we are in a time where we don't know what's real versus what's fake on social media, but yet we are still living in a comparison or comparative or competing lifestyles with other people on social media. And it's driving some people into depression, and it's driving some people to the unmatched levels of expectation that is just driving them crazy. Okay, they visiting the Lululand at an all-time high at this point, and I just don't think that's fair for themselves and fair for other people. Okay, so that's what we could start there. All right, how many of us that we talked about before, when you see someone on social media, it may make you feel some type of way. And we just talking about just for us as men, when you see other men on social media, does it hit you like that? Does that the need to compare to someone else's life really hit you individually on the same level? Because I mean, we all kind of were talking about it before. We think it hits the women. We know that because we getting requests that is like, would you even make that request unless you seen somebody else get that online? Would you even make that request?
I think unconsciously it does, because what it does to a man, and I'm not speaking for all men, I'm speaking for myself. What it does to me, it kind of puts out that measuring stick to some degree based on who you're looking at. When you're looking at your peers, or you're looking at someone that's a lot older than you, or you're looking at famous individuals, celebrities. I mean, you have the access to view and make these calls and compare your entire your life to those individuals. So what I feel like it does, to me, it puts me in a state of like, am I on the right track? Am I doing everything that needs to be done? Could I do more? Is this, it for me? Or, what's my purpose? What I mean? Because when you sit out there and you watch other people, and whether they hustlers, they grinders, they're going to get it, or whether they just, average Joe Smalls, or, it's somebody that just, got rich overnight, based on what you're comparing yourself to, I do feel like it do wear and tear on you, mentally to some degree, because you're using it as a measuring stick. Like I said, once again, it's more so if you're comparing yourself as if I'm doing enough, am I doing enough? Am I satisfied? Who I'm taking care of? Could I be doing more? I think it puts that, mindset, to you to that degree, I would say.
It almost seems like it puts it right in front of you when you look at other people's lives, like, oh, this is attainable. I can have this too. But really, everything ain't for you. Some things are for other people. What's for you is what's for you. And when we use our own measuring stick to find out what it is that we want. In a spiritual sense, we miss the mark because now we lack the abundance that can come from the Most High and His measuring stick. So you got to bring it back to source. You got to, and I know it's a hard thing. It hits me too every now and then. To your point, I mean, I look at some things I see on social media, and it makes you question, like, am I good? Am I in the race here? Where am I? Am I trailing behind? Am I okay? Some people, and you kind of see through the facade online. Some people you don't know, so you don't know whether what they posting is real or not. You kind of be like, man, like, I'm seeing people on vacations going crazy with it, all kind of stuff. And me and my wife ain't took a vacation in years. Now, if I wanted to make that a reality and we just go every year, I could, but my eyes is on something else, a whole nother mark of what I'm trying to hit. But when I see other people, I'd be like, how's y'all fronting the bills for these vacays, man? Like, I'm trying to make sure I'm every day kind of comfortable, paying bills, life, we don't really want for too much anything, but like, I'm decent, but y'all look like y'all living it up, until the bill come in the mail from the Lululand, because that's expensive.
And I know what you don't want social media to do to you, far as taking your perspective or projecting what you're seeing on social media, to your reality. On social media, it became a game changer for, like you said, we don't know what's real or what's fake, but it became a game changer to you living in the Lululand, to where, every woman looks like a model. You don't see any of the unforsaken or the unforeseen. You see what, they want to present to you. So when you're looking at, women and you comparing or projecting, what your household should be looked like, or what should be done in a marriage or in a relationship, and you're projecting what you're seeing on social media into your household, that's where it creates that turmoil to where you have to take a step back and put that phone down.
Put the phone down. How many times people doom scrolling out here?
Right.
No, I mean, I can ride that wave. I can admit that social media does sometimes make you feel inadequate in some parts of your life or relationship or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it make you feel like you can be doing a little bit more. Also, it's like a double-edged sword with that social media stuff, right? So you get on it, you get your little bit of you get your taste of it, and you get your feel of it, and then you, like you just said, you do got to put it down because it can distract you from like what your real purpose is. You know what I'm saying? As far as your relationship, it can distract you from how you operate in your own home. Just because you see somebody else on social media doing it one way or another doesn't mean that that's going to work in your home. Right. So you do have to put that phone down. You do have to take a break from social media and just get out of the Lululand and snap back to reality. Like your life is your life. What you see on social media, that's somebody else's life. We all don't know what that person that you're following or paying attention to, you don't know what they did, what they're doing to get to the point of where they are. Right. They could have done a whole bunch of negative stuff or positive stuff or whatever. Like, do you feel as though you're capable of going through that and doing what they have done to obtain that? If you find out, you probably won't be able to do it. You probably ain't set up to do it like that. So yeah, you got to step out of the Lululand for a little bit and snap back to reality.
Okay, and what I got to add to that is that man, you got to be happy with who you look at in the mirror every day. That's first and foremost. If you ain't happy with who you are when you look in the mirror every day, whether you got boogers in your eyes or a slob on your face, if you ain't happy with that person, then you always gonna constantly look at somebody in comparison to that. That first priority is being happy with yourself. If you happy with yourself, whatever it is that your life is and however it is, have it set up, then you will be confident and just focusing on that. But if you got time and effort and energy to focus on what somebody else is doing and how somebody else is operating on whatever platform or whatever area in this, on earth, then you're going to constantly have issues with what you see in the mirror, because that's really what you're looking at. You reflecting yourself in comparison to somebody else. So hey, if we could cut that out, look at yourself in the mirror and be thankful to God who he made you, beautifully as ugly as whatever. We going
Sound ugly.
look. However you deem yourself to be,
They
you
didn't
know,
make
be
no
happy
mistakes,
with
though.
that person.
You know, somebody got
Right.
that.
I do agree with that, Vic. But you know, we also feel like I feel like we happy with it with ourselves. You know what I mean? I feel like when we get on the call, you know, we talk amongst each other. We talk amongst each other and we go back and forth with each other in skills, talents, you know, we motivate each other. So I feel like we got a good structure on being happy with ourselves, but that still doesn't take away when you get on that social media and you see what you see and you want it.
I think everybody wants some, and I would never say that, hey man, you know, competition is wrong or anything. There is always going to be some level of competing amongst men for sure, but women compete against each other too all day long. So I wouldn't anybody watch, I wouldn't tell you shy away from the competition. Use it as inspiration or aspiration, but just don't get lost in it where it's like you want that person's life. You understand? Right. You hold on to yours, make your life into what
I want that.
you need to hold on to your life, but use that as some sense of a stepping stool to maybe get to where you at. Because some people are giving the game. They saying, hey, I did this, this, and this to get to where I'm at, or hey, I run my household like this or whatever. You know, chew the meat and spit out the bones. You know, use what you can in forms of wisdom, but do not take hold of that and make that your life, man. I definitely think that. What? Oh, you got stuck on bone?
No, I
don't get stuck
chewing
on
the meat.
Oh, well, I can't say.
Don't chew the meat.
I ain't gonna say suck the meat. You got to chew the meat and spit out the bones.
Yeah. You gotta say
but
pause at that.
I think that in I think that in essence, that's what I'm trying to say. At least is that competition factor. Just use it to motivate you, grow your discipline. You know what I'm saying, and get out there and get the life that you want. You can't have it all, or maybe not all at once, but you can have things. I mean,
then to add to that, then you got to be realistic to what your goals are. You know what I'm saying? What is it that you really want? You know what I'm saying? Once you write that down and get that in your head of what it is that you truly want for yourself, or what you truly want for your family or kids or relationship or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? And then you can, you know what I'm saying, start striving for that and walking on that path to obtain that.
Right.
That's all I got to say about that.
So you speaking about just having realistic views, and then actually having something to enthuse that, meaning that this is something that you actually able and capable of doing. You ain't just trying to step into an arena that you've seen somebody.
It's like what Lee was saying earlier. If you're not a go-getter, and you looking at all these people who are go-getters, that's not you. That's not your lane. Stay in your lane.
I know, Vic, you use that term realistic, and you know I did want to touch bases on that because when you jump on social media and you got these unrealistic expectations on yourself and significant other, you know, based on what you see, you don't know anything about some of these people's lives and backgrounds, but it puts you in a mindset as if you do, because you can actually sit and watch these people day in and day out, what they're doing on their downtime, what they're doing when they're having fun, what's considered fun to them. And now you're putting that, or you're projecting that on yourself and your significant other. And what you're doing, you're creating an unrealistic environment to live in. And I feel like we have to halt that to some degree, and we have to put that draw that line to where we know what's realistic and what's not realistic. And that goes back to us visiting that Delulu land. You know, like you say, if you're not a go-getter, you're not going to achieve what some of these people achieve. You're not willing to put yourself and through burnout and overexert your capacity, you know, to get somewhere that some of these people have fathomed to achieve.
Or you're not going to achieve it in the same way.
Exactly.
Like if they made it, it was overnight strategy in the stock market, and I did it. It's like, well, that's not you. You can make it, but it ain't gonna be overnight.
Give it hear all these stories
20
about
years.
Individuals, you know what I'm saying, make it in the industry of some sort of fashion. And I was homeless. I was living out of my car. And no, we not willing to make that sacrifice. I'm not sleeping out of my car,
different people,
like,
man.
I'm not sacrificing the family. Like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think me and my wife had touched that on our show with people before, because I've had people like, oh, your lifestyle and your family. I'm like, listen, it's a blessing, but at the same time, we don't celebrate holidays. You willing to giving up that? It's been times where I done been at work 15 hours. My wife is at home with the kids. You ready for that type of lifestyle? Because she'll tell you, like, man, I used to be lonely sometimes because you was at work all the time. Like, you gotta expand that conversation to, can you deal with this? People all day long, because we got to stop comparing ourselves to people that are rich. That is a totally different lifestyle than the average Joe. Y'all gotta lead that rich people alone, because that's who the main people you watching online is, people that's rich. You cannot compare yourself to them. That is a totally different lifestyle, first and foremost. But even on the average Joe kind of level, um you really need to expand that conversation, man, because you don't know what goes on in people's cribs. You know what I'm saying? Until you hear the horror stories, or you see, like, oh man, why so and so commit suicide or something like that, and it's like, I didn't know he was that unhappy. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
people's jobs be beating them down, their career, this social media. Some people are just lonely, whether it's a relationship issue or just an issue with themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's people out here getting no put,
Right.
like,
Zero
mostly
put.
men, but I'm just saying,
Right.
like, they depressed.
Pub master.
Now,
Yeah.
if we go into like this drawing this line and setting boundaries, right? There's different strokes for different folks, and I'm not sure which way the panel want to go with this, but I'm gonna just kick it off. With, as we been in in relationships, watching others, in households and comparing different households, we're trying to see, what works for you don't work for all, right? And I know we use the Bible because we all God fearing men, but we use the Bible to kind of use that measuring stick, use the Bible as the measuring stick to determine, how we lean,
Guidance,
right?
little blueprint.
Exactly, which way to lean, which way to, you kind of put your foot down, and it structure us to, some degree. So based on drawing that line, the boundary topic, I'm gonna get a panel the floor to determine, where is that line drawn? How do you go about drawing that line? And what time, far as in dating, when you're dating, or in marriage, whether it happens before marriage or after marriage, when should that be established?
I think it should be early in, for you all to for you and your person to discuss boundary lines, but I leave room for negotiations later on, because we both are evolving as people. We both are expanding and growing and changing. So you may have to renegotiate, because you may uh, find a new threshold, and y'all have to, visit that again. Plus, on top of that, with those boundaries, we got to understand the difference between comfort zone and boundaries, because if we're going to grow, you have to come outside your comfort zone. Well, that's a good thing in most cases. It's hard though. It's adversity, but you will be better for it. So is it, you are stuck inside your comfort zone, or is it really like a actual boundary, which is directly reflective, like your respect or loyalty, trust, like those uh inner traits, those things that you don't want to see harm to yourself. That's where that navigating needs to be. We need to establish which one it is. you know you just comfortable, you don't want to grow, or it's an actual boundary because it causes you some type of harm or something. And now we got to investigate that, because it's when you create a boundary line, guess what's on both sides? You and me. And there's it's either trying to trap me in or box me in, or it's trying to box you in. So we need to talk about that, because it's gonna affect us both. You can't just say, hey, this is my boundary line, don't cross it because it hurts me. Well, what does that do to me on the other side? Now you need to have consideration
Right. And
for me.
I know some of the topics on that boundary was pretty much, the posting on social media. So one of the discrepancies is that, when you're in a relationship, is certain things that you should and should not post, or certain things that you should and should not do on social media, and based on whether or not you're having some type of disagreement, things sporadically occurs on social media differently than when you are on good terms. So I know that's one boundary that's set. Another boundary is, what time frame is it to come in and out the house? You know, like what's a respectable time when you're out hanging out, despite who you with? But what's the respectable time? You know, to come in and out the house. And I know a third one that we discuss, far as a boundary, is just household duties. You know, like when is it, you know, to where we trade off household duties? Is it just based on who periodically there, or you know, who enjoy it more, or where do it comes down to a consideration factor on household duties? So my point of view on all of these boundaries, right, is if you chose your partner, I mean, you wake up every day and choose them, it shouldn't be too much of
A
a,
fight.
a disagreement or a fight, right? You know, when it comes down to respecting these boundaries. And I feel like that's where the conflict and the discord come into play, when you haven't chose them, to where you feel like you're lacking or settling to do what it takes to make that significant other or that individual satisfied with the motion that we're creating on a day-to-day basis. You know, if you wake up and every day, it's not saying you wake up every day to make this individual happy, but what you know, this person's buttons, this person's, you know, if you're stepping on a nerve or not, you know what it is that you need to do, you know, based on you knowing who you're dealing with, what to do and what not to do. And I feel like it becomes an issue when you know you haven't chosen that person.
Well, that's gonna be an ego thing, obviously. Whether
It's
you
that's a
choose them or choose yourself, that's ego. And I think you did say a word earlier, and you know what? This word needs to be studied. Matter of fact, all these words need to be studied. I encourage every couple to get a dictionary out and put that dictionary out. So when a word is used and we both are trying to gain perspective on this word, we can address the definition, because people are using their own personal perception of a word, and that's not even what it means. You know what I'm saying? So that's creating discord in the conversation too. I can't even get through to you because you using words wrong. You throwing me off. Okay, all right, let's get the words right. But the word I'm talking about is settle. I feel like settle has such a negative connotation attached to it. Settle is not always mean bad. You know, settle is partially amicable to yourself and the other entity, whatever that is, a relationship, your job, you know, whatever. Settle does not automatically mean bad. I don't know why I see that everybody's like, oh, I'm not settling. I'm not settling. What do you mean not settling? I mean, I get not everything's a negotiation, but a lot of things are. So you got to win it all. You got to have everything your way. Really? And you think everything gonna go your way? No, nobody gets everything their way. Let's be adults about this conversation. So settling, I just wanted to touch on that. It's not always bad when we talk about boundaries.
When you said settle, and then in reference to like a job, it's like, okay, well, what, 10 years, 20 years? I'm saying on 10 years, 20 years. Because I mean, whatever your job format is, it's the same continuous cycle every day, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it don't change unless you move into from like, you know, a line worker to a line supervisor. Like if it's different tiers of where you can grow within this company, you're still at the same place. It's the same building, right?
Mhm.
So if you can go here for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, did you settle? Or was it something that you was, what'd you say, negotiate? Were you able to negotiate terms on why you're doing things in a consistent manner, right?
I think that goes off of how you personally feel about what you're doing. And so since we're talking about a job, I feel like if you decide to do what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and you enjoy doing that, then it don't necessarily feel like settling. But if you're consistently trying to get promoted, you're trying to, you know, move up in ranking or in the hierarchy of the job, and you can't seem to get there, and now it's been 5, 10, 15 years, and you decide to stop trying, I think that now pushes you in that negative connotation of now, okay, I'm just settling because I'm not about to quit, you know, because we need our jobs, but you trying to move to the next level and you've been overlooked. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna just be comfortable here. I'm gonna just settle for this, you know, and that
Right.
puts you
I get you. You're not content where you at.
right,
So now we talking about contentment.
right. And that's why I think why it's so negative, why it come off so negative, because it is what other term to use to say, okay, yeah, I'm content, I'm good, besides like, oh, I settled. Oh, why did you settle? Oh, because I wanted to do this. I would like to move here and do that, but the job didn't allow me. So you either have to quit, go somewhere else and leverage those skills, or you just settle.
Again, is that what can
You
you say?
settling.
That's
You tuck and tail.
what he said. That's not negative, but so in that sense, it's like what mindset
I
and
think
what's your viewpoint on it?
Yeah, I think the word settle is perspective, right? I think it's all based off the individual. Like if you happy and you say settled, or whatever the case may be, that might be I settle for good, or I settle down. And another individual, if they're not happy within their relationship, or they're not happy with their job or whatever, they'll take settle as I'm settling for less, or I'm settling for worse.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah,
So
because you're not content.
Right,
So
'cause you're not
settling
content.
comes down from
It's
and the negative,
perspective.
perspective
It's
of a
perspective.
negative with settling is
I mean,
if you're
it's
not
just
content.
it's just generally used in a negative connotation,
Right. That's what I'm
right?
saying.
But it's mainly perspective.
Right. That's like, but I'm saying there should be some words changed up. That's why I say I encourage every couple or even yourself, pull out a dictionary, everybody, because instead of saying,
I mean, we
hey,
do have the tendency to overuse a word. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's a fact. I don't know. Compromise. Compromising with a situation.
yeah, that gets negative too a lot of times. Like I had to compromise. It's like, well,
Well,
that's
it
don't
seems like
mean
every
it's
word you
negative.
use in regards to a relationship is gonna be negative.
If it ain't went your way.
Right. If it ain't your
it
way,
ain't your way.
it's negative. You know, it's two people here. It's not
Right.
one person here. If that's the case, be by yourself.
I mean, relationships ebbs and flows. It's ups and downs. It's goods and bads. It's compromising for less, settling for less, and it's also, what I'm saying, the other person might receive more and vice versa. But that's where the relationship is. What I'm saying? It's the ups and downs. What I'm saying? What makes a relationship, what I'm saying, last or worthwhile is it the fact that it continues to
Evolve and
evolve
grow.
and like, because that's what relationships are basically. It's evolution of two individuals trying to become one.
And trying to be of service to each
trying
other.
to be of service to one another.
Yeah,
So,
but who they serving? That's the problem. If you always serving yourself or if you serve another person. Deacon, what it say? I have to decrease so he may increase. Right? So lowering or lessening yourself isn't always a bad thing if you're coming in the spirit of service. But not ego, because pride is the beginning of sin. So we got too many prideful individuals who don't need to be in a relationship, right? They should just be by themselves until they can work that out within themselves and learn humility. Because if you go get in a relationship, it's going to humble you. That's actually the fastest way to work on yourself. People be like, I'm single, I'm cool, I'm by myself, I'm good. Guess what? You probably not doing certain work that you need to do on yourself anyway. And what happens is your relationship skills atrophy. You start creating a comfort zone, and in that comfort zone, you list some boundaries. Then you go get with somebody else, and now you like, hey, you overstepping my boundaries. No, you in a comfort zone, but you brought that into a relationship, and now that has to be explored, tamed. Pub master got to tame it. Then you got to evolve. So you have to expand, and sometimes expanding may hurt a little bit. Okay, but it's good for you. It's like we ain't talking about getting fat. We talking about expanding of your mindset, expansion in your character.
You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because on the other side of uncomfortability is all the change that you might want and need. You know what I'm saying, in regards to yourself. Right. So
you probably ain't doing that by yourself because you gonna be okay with you. So you got nobody there to tell you, hey, you leave the toilet seat up, or hey, stop putting hair in the sink, or hey, you sleep all day, hey, you eat too much. You don't got nobody there to tell you that. You cool with it. So when you get with somebody else and they start telling you, hey, can you cook some more? Hey, can you clean up a little bit? Hey, could you work? I'm tired of you not working. Like, could you bring some money in? Well, I was cool with the money I'm making. Yeah, but now there's two of us. So we have to get in alignment on what the expectation is. Now let's create those boundaries. Now let's talk about this and that. Okay, you don't come into a relationship with boundaries and they don't change. That has to be negotiated with the other person. Period.
Yeah, I believe that. I agree with that. I approve that message. Um,
Yeah, exactly, dog. And speaking of those boundaries, y'all remember what happened with Anton and Corey Holcomb? That just happened not too long ago, and we saw two black men get into it on the mic over boundaries of respect. Okay, now the respect is a funny thing because we all are quote unquote deserving of it, but it also must be earned. So I'm just glad that they was able to kind of squash that without coming to blows on camera, because that would have been a bad look for all of us. That type of stuff is used against all of us. But they was negotiating boundaries at that table. Hey, don't say this. You don't say that. I won't say this. But they both came in there with a different mindset on that. They didn't know what that was. You know what I mean? So, and with that boundary and comfort zone, if we move over to the next thing and briefly touch on this is the black male experience of accepting a loved one dying or accepting death that kind of lingers with a friend, family member, or whatever, and our experiences with that to an extent, right? Because in this country, it being a young black male, it almost seems like you may meet or quote unquote almost meet death multiple times along your lifehood. Like you didn't been in a situation where you almost got, whether it was from a fellow brother, whether it was from the police, whether it was just by accident walking past. But that's dealing with death on a personal level. But what about indirectly when like a loved one dies? And how do you feel about that? Are you guys numb to it? Like I mean, we just put my auntie to rest in like couple weeks ago. And when I was told about it, I mean, it didn't really hit me. I was just like, I'm at work, okay. Yeah, that's messed up, but okay. And I kept it moving. I didn't shed my first tear until I saw her in the coffin. And when I saw her in the coffin, I saw her friend who looks just like her, and they always was together. And I seen her standing there, her in the coffin. Something hit me, and I had to sit down and shed a couple tears. Like, oh man, my auntie is really gone. But I didn't do that until that happened. So it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks before I even shed a tear. I was just trying to go through the motions of dealing with her dying, regardless, because it ain't like we didn't have a rapport. We had a relationship. This ain't no estranged auntie, but dealing with her dying, dealing with stress at work, and then dealing with maintaining a relationship with me and my wife and kids, and then going to karate and all this other stuff. So how does that impact you all with death
Well,
and embracing it from a loved one?
Well, I mean, first off, it depends on who it is, right, and how close of the relationship you are with that individual. But me and my brother, we had a recent death too. My father, he died, last year on my birthday, that morning. But some of the issues, that you deal with after the death, I think, be the balance, right? So it's overstepping boundaries once again, and with that line of drawing. So, with my father passing, me and my little brother was his only kids, and we had quite a few people that kind of overstep boundaries, when it comes down to burial, when it comes down to negotiating certain things. I feel like, when you have and it's a hierarchy for a reason, so when you have, death in the family, and that individual have kids, everything should be negotiated or streamlined through the children. If somebody else, based on how old the kids are, and if they can, hold it together and make these type of decisions, then you have somebody that the children agree on to spearhead what it is they need to spearhead, meaning funeral arrangements and things like that. But when it comes down to the death of the family, you have to, I mean, the kids, the next of kin is who decides on this, unless it's a will or something in place, that exert this authority to someone else. And I feel like that's what we've been through. And it was under the table. It was BS. I mean, we still struggle with that because we're still going through that, dealing with that, and it puts a bad taste in your mouth knowing that it's coming from somebody that you trusted or loved at that point. And I think death in families, and when it comes down to, receiving assets or obtaining assets, it creates a huge discord within the family itself, and it will definitely make you think about doing some things to your family that you haven't thought about doing, as seriously, dude, seriously. And
Mhm.
it's sad that it has to be that way. It's a bunch of lying, it's a bunch of deceitfulness. It's crazy how the death of an individual will create so much discord, and as men, you handle it the best way you handle it, but you don't even get time to even grieve the individual. I don't think I shedded a tear. No, yes, I did. I shedded a tear at the funeral. But you get so angry to where even at the funeral I was angry. I was upset, and I don't think you should have to feel like that just based on how everything went. And that's just my perspective on the death of my father. But yeah, that's crazy work. Anybody else got something to say?
Yeah, I can attest to that. For me, I guess for me, I had healthy distractions to a certain degree. Um, I didn't, I really, I didn't feel it to that degree, like the grief or the hurt or whatever. I think I was more angry about everything than any of any of that.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Just based off the relationship that we had with Pops, you know what I'm saying? And that was ongoing. And to know the things that he didn't do or didn't set in place, I took that as another way of showing me how you really felt about me. Right?
Valid.
Right.
So with that, with me receiving that like that, and then other individuals who were set in place to spearhead certain situations that they was out of place for even doing, as much anger as I felt for that individual, it still brought me more anger towards him because you allowed it.
Yeah, you could have corrected it.
You could have corrected it. You could have did something about it. You set her in place when you didn't have to.
Even if he didn't set her, I feel like she manipulated the situation, and she was able to manipulate the situation because he didn't do what
What
he
he was
needed. He
what he
needed
was
to do.
supposed to do.
I
So
feel
yeah,
like that.
I definitely feel as though she took advantage of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In her regard, she could have, if he wasn't coming to us, she could have came to us and said, "Hey, this is what's going on."
Right.
But instead of her doing that, she took it. She saw a sweet spot and she sat in it.
Right. And I think that happens to a lot of individuals. And I understand you may not agree to disagree that everybody is gonna die. You can't get around death. So when you decide that you're not gonna get a life insurance policy, when you decide that you're not gonna create a will, you're not gonna have a trust, that's stupidity at its finest, because you can't outdo death. And the fact that you don't know when you're gonna die should make it a priority on why you should put certain things in place as soon as you're capable of doing so. Bottom line.
Yeah. Well, as men, because even the scriptures say, "Deacon, leave an inheritance for your children."
Right.
So,
I was just about to
For
say
your
that. Like, you
children,
can't take
children.
none of this shit with you.
Right.
mhm. Yeah, exactly. You can't take none of it with you. We need to be responsible as men, and then from whatever our fathers lacked, as we all talked about on the previous episode before a while back, you know, we supposed to be better. We supposed to address our families that we create and put things in order so that our children don't have to relive or go through what we had to go through. You know what I'm saying? So it's a form of that experience or adversity at this point comes in, and it molds you and refines you so you can be a better man. Because like you say, oh, you felt anger, and it seems like for men, anger is like second nature, and anger is a secondary emotion. Anger not even the primary emotion. It's typically the anger comes after what you feel first, whether that's sorrow, some form of grief, some
Yeah, but
form of
right. But when you're not leading with anger, you're right. The anger is the second emotion,
Mhm.
but what's shown is the anger.
Mhm.
Of course, it's hurtful, Of course, I was hurt. Of course, it was grief at the end of the day. But what was shown was the anger, right? I don't know. I just didn't have the emotional capacity to really show the hurt or whatever the case may be.
And
I think I probably cried maybe 2 or 3 times. I definitely cried once at the funeral or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I was over all of that is overpowered and overshadowed by anger.
I was just going to address it in the sense that, understanding how y'all feel in that sense. So if you say, anger may have been the secondary feeling, but if we understand it spiritually, it's anger first, and then anger allows you to be able to kill. So whatever those emotions that was feeling, in a sense, like they even reference it to a family member, was just completely out of order. So the fact that y'all had to feel those type of emotions just lets it be known that it was not godly, it was not in order, and it was something that was out of control. So I just wanted to at least acknowledge that part, like to get to a place that you in that much anger and grief, it will cause you to do some things that you can't come back from. So
Right.
us as men, understanding that going forward, that it's our job and it's our duty to put things in place, like you said, well, life insurance, putting those things in place so that our kids do not have to experience those type of things, whether it's things are taken care of as far as they like it or not. We still have a job and a responsibility to make sure we put certain things in place so that they will not have to feel those type of emotions.
Right. And shout out to Vic and shout out to myself, because we life agents and life brokers anyway, so we know better. But that's a whole nother part of it. But back to that impact of death and being able to feel that, if we transition that into men expressing themselves, and y'all just heard how anger comes so easily. It's a secondary emotion, right? And we talk about it's so easy for us to get into that because it feels like we're able to protect ourselves because it's hard to be vulnerable. So when men get in a vulnerable position, or when men open themselves up to be expressive, to talk about their emotions, is, for the life of me, why is that sassy? Can we talk? Are we supposed to just shut up and die, or and work, or which come first? Work, shut up, die.
Right.
Shut up, work, die, or die, and then work after that. What we doing?
We would definitely need some woman perspective on when that boundary become sassy, or when that boundary is crossed over to be considered sassy. Because as we talk amongst men, it's extremely difficult to define that line, and we joke about it all the time. It's like you got that hoe in you. You ain't got that dog in you. And we joke about that all the time. And it's just like, on a serious note, it's like, where is that line really drawn to be like, okay, where we could show some form of empathy to one another, to be like, hey man, hey, at least you tried, hey, keep going. I understand, life be life. You know what I mean? So it's just like, we try to get to that point. And then even when you're talking to your significant other, and it's just like, some women out here don't feel like you should stand toe to toe, or what we call it, get in the ring, when we disagree with the formality of what's going on. And not to take this topic back to, situations in the household, but it's just more so of trying to define, when I could be expressive, when I'm in that vulnerable state, and the way I express myself, why is it considered sassy?
Okay, so to kind of go off of that, to go back to Antoine and Corey, right? So they could not get to a place of agreement with the back and forth conversation, or talking, or over talking, or whatever case may be, to the point that, like, we lip boxing at this point. Okay, but if we cannot settle this, as far as just having conversation, let's go to the back and we're gonna see how tough you is. So if we talking about relationships, it still have to have some form of respect, right? So we're not gonna talk crazy and go back and forth to the point that, like, I have to overly raise my voice, or overly be stimulated as far as this conversation, for you to understand that you can't go toe to toe with me? Do we have to go to that extent for you to understand, like, I'm still being a man by having a conversation with you, opposed to putting my hands on you? Because if I put my hands on you, then now that's something else.
Or you being a respectable man, right?
Yeah, being a respectable man by just even trying to have a conversation. But if neither one of us could control our emotions in a sense, that we need to understand that this is not a healthy conversation right now. But we're not gonna start justifying or what's signifying each other in a sense to say you sassy or
Well,
whatever.
that's even when you're being respectable.
Does Wayne Brady have to choke?
That still get trumped with the emotional intelligence, right? That you have to bear dealing with your woman or significant other. And that's where the problem lies. And that's when that line is drawn to where it's like I could be respectable all day, and I throw jabs, in this conversation.
Real jabs.
No. Not throw jabs in this conversation. We're having, this intellectual conversation to where it's just like, from that point on, now we're getting into how you feel now, which is now deterring the point of the conversation. Because now we're going off how you feel and what you feel like should be and what it feel like it shouldn't be. When you're having these, I guess, verbal boxing matches, like you stated.
Yeah, and both people's feelings matter. It's not one person's feeling supersedes the other when you are having these conversations in the dynamic of a relationship. That is, and I mean, I would almost dare, speaking to ladies, I would almost dare you to really provide a safe place for your guy to speak to you. Can he? He probably already, a lot of guys, but I can't even talk to her because if I start talking about how I feel, she ain't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So can you provide the emotional space and opportunity for him to demonstrate his emotional intelligence? Because more guys are emotionally intelligent than we think out here, but are you ready for that? That's what I'm thinking on my side. Are you ready for that? I mean, when me and my wife did our show, she came out and said when I was trying to vent to her one day, based on what she had going on, she did not have the capacity for me at that time. And I don't vent often. And she said that too. You don't really complain, you don't really vent often. But the time I tried, there was no room left. So I had to kind of sit in that. Like I say, my auntie died. I didn't really process that all the way. I had work to do, So are we, one, for men, are you addressing your feelings? Are you feeling your feelings? And then two, are you expressing them? But then three, are you able to express them? Are you being let the time and opportunity to express them? And then four, if he express them, is he sassy? Or is he just being a human being? Just because, ladies, if you feel like you got a box of your feelings are a 64 pack of crayons with all these different colors and using them to paint the picture, don't think that we don't have the same 64 crayons to paint the same picture. We can. Most guys may only use 10 or 12 because that's all I really need to paint this picture for you. I don't need all these other vibrant colors, but he has them and don't think he can't use them. You know what I'm saying? As simple as that.
Yeah, and to go back and forth with that in the sense is like, okay, like you said, at one point, do you have the room? Okay. The other point, if you got the room, are you using the room? Okay. So we know that it's options for me to be able to utilize it, but at the same time, am I going to get the effectiveness that you going to get when you express it? It's going to be different. So if we can go back to like emotional intelligence, what I would have to understand or be able to put in place is for me to regulate my emotions in a sense that every single thing is not a form of me being irritated. Every single thing is not a form of me feeling slighted or feeling not considered or feeling not heard. I realize that for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of whatever we have, I am willing to negotiate or I'm willing to, let some stuff fall off my back because if I bring up every single point in every issue just because I can, then what are we doing? Not like okay, I get it. Before y'all make any comments, again, I'll go back to say, do I have the space and am I utilizing the space? It's not the fact that it's there and if I'm using it, it's the fact that how am I using it? Okay, I could speak up for myself. I could defend myself, but how am I? And in what direction am I doing it? Am I doing it to be petty? Am I doing it to be spiteful? Am I doing it to just
what spiritual?
Right. That
what
was just about to
spirit-
say
What
that, yeah.
spirit am I in doing it? Just say, okay, well, I got a boxing ring. Hey, you want to get in anytime we get in it? Hey, if you ain't getting in it, I mean you don't want to fight, but it's always there.
Right. So what I would say to that point, V, is what I would say to that point is it is based on what is based on how effective it is, based on the results that you receive. So you can go through and utilize that space in a variety of different ways, right? A multitude of different ways. But as you keep trying to use that space, you may use that space one way. Hey, let's do therapy. Another way. Hey, let's talk to the pastor. Another way. Let me snap on you. Let me snap on you. I was about to say something else. But,
let me slap you.
You know what I'm saying?
Forget snap. Let me slap you
so
then.
You
Let's
use
just do that.
You use that space, but then you determine based on the receipts on which one was more effective. And then you continue that path. That's how I would
version of myself gets the most respect, right? What version do I have to bring to the table to get what I'm looking for,
Exactly.
right? Sometimes I can talk to you and really tell you how I feel, and it gets respected. Sometimes I may have to flip table.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If it's 6 o'clock at night, you know what I'm saying, I'm tired, you want to bring some BS to me, I may have to flip table tonight. You may get that version of me, right? I may have to flip table.
Flip
If,
wig.
You know what I'm saying? So if flipping table gonna get me the best results,
right.
I'm flipping table.
Yeah, but if you flip table, you sassy and you got that hoe in you.
Wait. But if we flip table, when you encourage the tables to be flipped, it shouldn't matter what I say. I can say whatever I want to say because you say you okay with flipping tables. So if I say something that you don't like, we ain't having a conversation about what you don't like later. You was okay with it. You was okay with these tables being flipped.
But that's the thing.
I don't want to hear it after.
That's the thing. Once you flip table, you know what I'm saying, you gotta you prepared to a table to be flipped back, or for the next individual to acquiesce.
Mm-hmm.
Once you take it to that,
you better acquiesce because we don't want to cause no scene, and the cops don't need to be called.
If the individual was starting it off with flipping table,
set the tone.
Right, I done set the tone. So if you matching the tone, that mean I gotta go 200. Now I gotta flip house.
I gotta flip 2 tables.
Now I gotta flip house.
I gotta flip table times 2.
I gotta flip car.
Hold on. But you say you if you do that, then you sassy. So then what we do? Walk away.
What do we get the opportunity to do without being shamed for doing it?
Right.
Is it always some form of sign language? And we're gonna address that next time as well. And speaking of that, fellas, y'all on the chopping block next time is we got something for y'all too, because y'all out here chasing too much PUD. It's controlling your life and you don't know what to do with your life. But don't worry, we gonna tell you what to do with your life. You ain't had the right dude challenge you.
We talked about women in the Lulu. Now we talking about men in the Lulu chasing PUD that you not even required. You know what I'm saying? You ain't even got the bag to chase this type of PUD. You losing your life, losing the job, losing the whip, chasing PUD.
Right.
Exactly. So, hey, on the next episode, we coming back, season 2, episode 2. When we get back, guess what? It's on you, fellas. You're on the chopping block. Other than that, hey, we had a good show. Thank y'all for tuning back in. Intellectual Radio, topic of discussion, TOD Podcast. We back at it. We'll be back at you later. Peace out.
Good work.
We always ask ourselves, why now, how come? All of the good ones, they got us that young. But in this life we live in, we don't know the outcome. Every day is a blessing, so we just gotta live it up. Live it up, 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 live it up. Just live it up. Live it up, 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 live it up. Just live it up. Hey, see, I swear it's like we living in it ain't nothing but a waiting room. Make your mark good or bad, either the way you choose. You be precise when you make your moves. At the end of the day, when you getting judged, you get caught up in everybody that you with. Yeah, they ain't with you. And some of y'all are gonna hate the truth. That's why you gotta